Hi, good morning, and welcome to another edition of our post-cabinet press briefing. It's 8:02, and this morning we have two very distinguished ministers among our midst. We have Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon, and we have Favour Williams. Well, it's a special morning. Today is Partnership Day. Am I correct? And the partnership program has been with us for many years. It is a forum by which members of the civil society, opposition, the government, and the private sector engage in robust discussions about the important issues that affect our government. We have, coming first, our Minister of Education, who will be making her presentation with her team. I'd like to welcome the representatives from the Ministry of Education and also members of the partnership. Minister Williams, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge Minister Morgan, our fearless Minister of Information, Minister Dana Dixon, and her entire team here this morning. Let me acknowledge as well our PS, Dr. Troop, and the entire team from the Ministry of Education and Youth. All those who are online, members of the media, thank you so much for continuing to carry the good news about education. This morning, we are putting the spotlight on our very ambitious parenting program. The target, as we announced earlier and reiterating again, is to provide a minimum of 100,000 parents with parent education training. Yes, the plan has been formulated, and let me specially mention Ms. Casey Carr, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Parenting Support Commission, who is leading this charge, and we're all following behind, just supporting her to get this done, because it's very important. The delivery plan has been formulated and shared with schools across Jamaica, outlining the new target of providing a minimum of 100,000 parents with parenting education and training, as well as strategies to be employed in reaching this target. All public and registered private educational institutions are required to deliver parenting education training to their parent populations. The National Parent Support Commission is coordinating meetings with education officers, school administrators, guidance counselors, deans of discipline, and other helping services professionals in schools to ensure that CSP guidelines, which is Citizen Security Program guidelines, are understood. The meetings serve as a guarantee that the quality of the parenting education program will not be compromised. National Parenting Support Commission's officers continue to provide oversight by making daily contact with school personnel for the provision of technical support. Additionally, parent mentorship training is currently underway, with trainees recommended from ministries, departments, and agencies, and the school leadership. Prospective parent mentors hail from all 7 regions. They are exposed to intensive modules of parenting education training, and as such, form part of those served under Indicator 2 of the Citizens Security Program. Certified parent mentors are mapped to schools and effectively support parents across Jamaica. Our parent places have been reactivated. As you know, during the pandemic, they were closed. We have an additional 10 slated to be fully reactivated before the end of this school term, which is September to December. As you may be aware, our parent places provide parents with parenting education, psychosocial support, skills training and counseling, among other services. Our parent places are primarily in schools, but they serve the community so that they're able to reach a wider cross-section of the population. The National Parent Support Commission has also been conducting roving parent places as another strategy to boost parent engagement. As you know, the National Parent Month is observed in November. We have just significant programs during November. We will use it to scale up our efforts, and we'll use it to celebrate as well our hardworking parents, but provide them with parenting education to build their capacities. This year, the National Parent Month will be guided by the theme, Participation for Purpose. There are 3 pillars. Pillar 1 is called Begin at Home, helping parents to understand that they are their children's first teachers and that what they do at home matters. The second pillar calls on parents to enroll in a parenting education class. Parents must see it as utmost important to build their knowledge and skills in parenting. And the third pillar encourages parental involvement as this leads to student success. So for the month, there'll be a heavy emphasis or concentration on parental involvement in school. In the not too distant future, I foresee us formalizing, Ms. Carr, parenting education so that we have credentialed courses in parent education and training. And during the question and answer, Ms. Carr is here available to talk about the program specifically for the month, but we will also do an official launch of Parenting Month. This morning as well, I want to highlight our significant efforts this year to improve literacy in primary and secondary schools. We want to increase and maintain the literacy rate at grade 4 by 2026. And just to give you a sense of where we were in 2019, we achieved literacy rates of 83% at the grade 4 level. But the grade 4 test that we generally do was not administered in 2020 or 2021 because of COVID. In 2022, we saw the impact, the negative impact of COVID on literacy. And so we're back on track for 2023. The grade 4 test was administered, and we expect the results by November 17. Our targets, we want to get back to the 80% this year. For 2024, 2025, 85%, and for 2025, 2026, 90%. We are going to do this by targeting 126 primary schools and 56 secondary schools. These are the ones with that got an unsatisfactory rating on certain key performance indicators, and we looked at, there are 4 such indicators. Teaching in support for learning, we looked at that. Student academic performance, students' academic progress, and the curriculum and enhancement programs that are in the particular school. And that exercise demonstrated to us that there are 126 primary schools and 56 secondary schools that are performing unsatisfactorily based on these key performance indicators. And so the focus will be there. Additionally, under school improvement framework, all 248 underperforming schools will also be supported to get our literacy rates up. I want to just quickly mention that we have been piloting some programs, literacy programs in our schools, in certain schools, to help us as we go forward. The first one I want to mention is the Literacy Education Acceleration Program called LEAP. That's a program in which 6 schools were selected in Region 1 and 4. The program was used to bridge the gap in literacy. It was a pilot program. We have results, and we are quite impressed with the results. 10 hours of intervention on this program resulted in improvements by 8 months in reading and 6 months in spelling ages. So if we when we looked at the group that was involved versus groups that were not, and this was a very controlled environment, we're seeing 60% of the treatment group, which is the medical term, improved at least 1 grade level. 29% increased by 2 or more grade levels, and 10% increased by 3 or more grade levels. And this was in 10 hours. So we have something here that we hopefully can scale up across the system to help our children with literacy. We were also piloting the Creative Language-Based Learning Foundations program, and we are seeing good results here as well. And this program we will continue in our schools. We also have among us members of the Peace Corps Jamaica that have been helping us in training of literacy volunteers in lesson planning and administration. And we have our own Literacy 1, 2, 3, and we have some of those books here this morning, primarily through LMW Publisher series that we are going to make available to the children in the schools in which we are targeting, so that no one can say they have nothing to read. That's the plan. As you know, reading opens up a world of opportunities. If you cannot read, your life opportunities are limited. Lots of research suggests that the more you read, the more things you will know, and the more you learn, the more places you will go. And I'm sure that sounds familiar because that's Dr. Seuss. It came out of Dr. Seuss's book. If you're going to get anywhere in life, you have to read a lot of books. And we want to support our children to read. We want to encourage our parents. Just take a half an hour every day. Just sit and let your child read to you. You don't necessarily have to understand everything they're reading. Just let them read half an hour every day. You'll be amazed at what will happen at the end of it. So I want to encourage all our parents to work along with us in our efforts to get our literacy rates back to where they were pre-pandemic, and to move the literacy rates well beyond that. And so I will stop here this morning and turn it back over to Minister Morgan.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Post-Cabinet Press Briefings. I really appreciate your willingness to attend upon this platform on a regular basis to give important updates about our education system. And I know the public is very appreciative of the constant information sharing. We will now turn to our newest member of the Cabinet, Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon, and she's here to speak to us about a very important day, National Partnership Day, And it's October 25, and she will give you a little bit of the history of the partnership and also the contribution that it continues to make to national development. Dr. Morris Dixon.
It says, please do not adjust microphones, but I'm adjusting them. I'm short. All right. Good morning, everyone, and I have to acknowledge the Honorable Favour Williams, our Minister of Education, who is doing so much work in this area and coming every week. When I came this morning and I saw the team, I thought, again, aren't they here every week? But that's important. It really does show the importance of education, and we've been saying it for such a long time, that the only way forward is through education. And so I think that is really indicative of how seriously our Minister of Education is working. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank the team for all of that hard work. Minister Morgan, our communication, information, everything Minister, thank you as always for bringing the media together for this press briefing. I have to acknowledge the new permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education. I am so happy for you, and I'm very glad that you're taking over this role. It's very difficult, but we are putting a lot of trust in you to take us to where we need to go. And good morning to all of the team that's here. We have members from the NIDS team, and we also have members from the Office of the Information Commissioner, because I will also speak to data protection after I've done the National Partnership Day. So today is October 25, and it is National Partnership Day. And our partnership is very different than most social partnerships we see around the world. And you know Jamaica has to be different. Most of our social partnerships that we see around the world have the government, they tend to have the unions involved, and they will have civil society. That's it, just 3 groups. But in Jamaica, we felt that it was even more important to widen that scope. And in Jamaica, we have academia, we have the church, and we also have the opposition as a part of our partnership. Now, that's not an easy feat. Having all these different people with all these different interests coming together to discuss the issues of national importance is not an easy task. But what it says is that we've matured to a level in our country where we can have real dialogue about the issues that are facing Jamaica. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't always agree with all of those different partners. It is often hard to get to consensus. But we've been at it, and I keep saying that as long as we keep talking to each other, that we are making progress in the social partnership. Some people, I know some of our private sector partners who are a very important partner in all of this, they feel that, you know, you should have all these metrics and you tick them off as you go along. But in a partnership, it can often be really difficult to do that because of all the different interests that are sitting at the table. And so the Governor General declared October 25 as National Partnership Day in recognition of the importance of dialogue, the importance of putting down our differences and sitting together and talking about things. We talk about a range of issues, from environmental issues, because we have the environmentalists on our committee, such as Diana Macaulay, who we know has been a champion for the environment, and she has her thoughts. And at the same time, we have the private sector saying that we need to look at these issues, we need to look at tax issues, we need to look at how we make our economy more productive and run more smoothly at the same time. And then we also have the opposition at the table opposing some of the times. But it is very important that this dialogue continues, because we recognize that no problem in Jamaica can be fixed by the government alone. We will only be able to fix our issues if we have all of our partners at the table. And it is for that reason that the government remains committed to the social partnership, because we understand that it is important that all voices have a say. All voices are heard as we tackle the really, really important problems that are facing our nation. And so it's a good day. It's a good day because we still have all the partners at the table. No one has walked away, even with all of the differences of opinions on a wide range of things from SOEs to other things. And there are real differences of opinion, but we're all still at the table. We're all still talking. And today, the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, will chair a meeting of the National Partnership Council, where we will discuss some of the issues that are of importance to our partners. And in the room today, we have some of our partners. It's a rainy morning, so some of them are not here. They've not been able to get through the traffic to be here. But there are a few that are here, and I'm going to ask them if they could say a few words about their continued commitment to the partnership. And as I give Metri Siaga, the head of the PSOJ, a chance to take his seat, I am going to impose on someone to come and say a few words, and I'm looking straight at him. The father of social partnership in Jamaica, someone who has spent their entire life almost working on partnership and pushing us forward, someone who I admire and respect a lot for all of his hard work. Ward Mills is here, and I would like him to say a few words to us as we continue the work that he pioneered this morning. Ward Mills.
Good morning, Minister. I'm still recovering from your leaping upon me in that way. All of a sudden, do I have to adjust this? Minister Williams, is Minister Morgan still here? Yes. Let me just say that I'm privileged to have been allowed to work along with a number of people in the process of trying to develop a social partnership. A lot of us feel that one of the most important assets that a country can have is robust social capital, meaning the willingness and the ability of different groups to work together in the interest of the country, okay? And we feel that the social partnership helps to set the stage for that. It helps to build the trust. It helps to foster social dialogue, which is critical to all of this. And as our minister just said a while ago, we don't agree all the while, but we have a way of dealing with these things when we don't agree, and we stay at the table. So I myself, having been, well, I wish I could say it was most of my life, Minister, because if that were so, then I would be much younger than I really am, right? And I wouldn't have all these gray hairs, but it has been a very good journey, and I want to sort of pay tribute to the Prime Ministers that have supported this, including Prime Minister Golding, to whom our ACON group went to first to talk to him about it, because he had spoken about the need for partnership. And we sat down with him and himself and the late Minister Nelson. Both of them helped us, working with us, helped us to put the whole thing together. And then the baton was passed 3 times after that, seamlessly almost. I mean, nobody dropped the baton and nobody ran out of the box. It was passed to Prime Minister Simpson Miller, and then subsequently to Prime Minister Holness. Twice. Well, I don't know how that would work in a relay, but so it has been through 4 different administrations, and I think that in itself says a lot about where we have reached, as the Minister said, as a country in terms of our ability to collaborate and our ability to work together. And so although I have retired from the fray somewhat, I want to wish Minister and all the members of the council, wish them well, and the Prime Minister as well. It's not an easy job for him to cheer that. I want to wish them well, because I think the success of the partnership is very important to the overall success of where we want to go as a country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ward, for those quick words, but he really did work really hard to get us started, and we thank you, and history will be kind to you in terms of your role here. Our next member of the partnership is from the private sector, and the private sector is really important in the partnership. And I am very happy to have the president of the PSOJ, Mr. Metri Siaga, here this morning to give the private sector's view on the partnership and why they remain there. And then after Mr. Siaga, we're going to have our youth rep, who is on the council, which is very broad, as I said. Everybody's voice is there. Mr. Orville Levy, he will be invited to say a few words also.
Thank you, Minister. All protocols observed. Morning, ministers who are here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to stand here before you today at this post-cabinet press briefing as we gather to discuss a cornerstone of national development, the National Partnership Council. I speak on behalf of the private sector organization of Jamaica when I say that our support for the NPC is not just steadfast, but increasingly crucial in today's climate. The NPC serves as a forum that unites a broad spectrum of stakeholders, members from the government, the parliamentary opposition, and other critical societal groups. It epitomizes the principles of collaboration, respectful dialogue, and constructive engagement, which we at the PSOJ believe are fundamental for advancing our beautiful country, Jamaica. It is important to highlight that our commitment to such a multi-stakeholder approach is deep-rooted. Back in 2004, we collaborated with the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce to execute the Partnership for Progress, an initiative born within the framework of the NPC itself. This is concrete evidence of our enduring commitment to harness all available resources for driving Jamaica's socio-economic development. Today, the need for a strong, united front is more urgent than ever. We live in a time where divisive rhetoric and actions have the potential to erode our governance process and reverse the strides we have made in meeting our development targets. While we have gained some level of macroeconomic stability, we remain beleaguered by many social challenges, most notably crime and violence. Addressing these multifaceted issues calls for a cohesive and collective approach, making platforms like the NPC not just valuable, but indispensable. What makes the NPC particularly exceptional is its resilience, its ability to operate seamlessly across successive administrations, as Ward has just pointed out. This continuity is not only commendable, but essential for the fulfillment of our collective objectives. It is through sustained dialogue and unrelenting collaboration within this framework that we can sow and nurture the seeds of national development. The mission of the PSOJ is to create a conducive economic and social environment in Jamaica, an environment where businesses flourish, communities thrive, and our people enjoy fulfilling lives. We firmly believe that collaboration is not an option, but a necessity for achieving these aspirations. As such, we pledge our unyielding support, expertise, and resources to bolster the NPC as a critical catalyst for transformative collaborative actions. I urge all stakeholders, whether in government, opposition, or civil society, to renew their commitment to the NPC, Let's stay focused, maintain constructive dialogue, and intensify our collaborative efforts to tackle the issues holding back our beloved country. In unity, there is strength. With collective action and a shared vision, we can rise above our challenges and achieve extraordinary milestones for the enduring betterment of Jamaica. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Metri, and thanks for the support of the private sector. The private sector has been such an important partner from the very beginning. The private sector has led significantly in terms of moving the partnership forward, and we thank you especially for your support, because I know a lot of the behind the scenes getting things done and getting people to talk to each other, you do that behind the scenes, and I thank you for that. All right, we now have Mr. Orville Levy, who is our youth rep on the National Partnership Council.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, Minister, PS, and Minister again. Minister has put me on the spot, but as youth rise to the occasion. It has been certainly a rewarding experience to see the collaboration that takes place on the National Partnership Council. And it's an endeavor that I believe will help in greatly advancing the, as the national pledge said, welfare of the whole human race. But specifically here in Jamaica, youth have a pivotal point and role to play when it comes on to national development, and giving them, you know, a seat at the table where they can dialogue and give their perspective. Because the partnership is creating a Jamaica that works for all. The partnership is creating a future that we will inherit. And us being a part of that dialogue is very important to us. And so we want to see the whole dialogue with partners improve over time. We want to see us advancing some of those communications in the different spheres that we'll participate in for future. So as we celebrate National Partnership Day, we want to recognize that the national partnership is not just a goodwill, but it's for us to work on the resilience and bolster those avenues of collaboration, communication, and to see how best we can foster growth and development that works for all. So, Minister, thank you for chairing, and thank you for all the partners who remain at the table to continue this dialogue for national advancement.
Thank you. Wasn't that wonderful? He was not planning to speak, and this is one of the things, you know, we talk about our young people in particular ways, Minister, and he's a product of a full Jamaican education, and he was articulate, poised, ready for the moment. There are good things happening in our education space. We produce some good people. Yes, there are a lot of problems, but we're able to produce young men, strong young men like Orville Levy. And he's not just a token person on the council, and I need to note that. He is the first to send through what items should be discussed at the National Partnership Council. When we needed messages from the partners, he was the first to send in his message. And I think it is very important for us to understand that our young people, they need to have a voice at the table, and their voice is very, very important. And Orville Levy is very much an example of how our young people are saying, listen to us, we have good ideas, and we're very happy, Orville, to have you on the National Partnership Council. Thank you. All right, so you've heard a bit about the council, which is, as I said before, chaired by the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and he takes that very seriously. We have meetings quarterly, and those meetings are happening. And we know everybody is busy, but the partners take the time to come to these council meetings, which can get heated. Don't get me wrong, it gets heated, but at the end of the day, everyone is talking. All of the issues are out in the open. And I know from where I sit as the coordinating minister, I pledge to continue to work with all of the partners to get the issues aired, to not have them fester behind the scenes, but to bring them out into the open. And I have to say all the partners have been very much aligned with that kind of an approach. And I want to thank all of the partners for remaining at the table through difficult times and for supporting the administration. And again, the administration sees this. The Prime Minister sees this as a critical component of us taking our country to where our country needs to go. So thank you, and that's our discussion about National Partnership Day. And I should note, Minister Morgan, I'm going to go straight into a quick update on NIDS. And this is really important. My office got a call from a gentleman who said he wants his NIDS card. And we're not ready yet to issue NIDS cards, but we do get that. We get it on social media. You need to talk about NIDS more. That's what they tell me. And they also are asking when can they sign up. And so I know that there are a lot of people who are excited, Dr. Vernon, to get their NIDS cards. And so we wanted to do a quick update on where we are in relation to NIDS. And Dr. Vernon, if you could join me, I would be very grateful as I talk through where we are with this. And I have to start by saying that, again, NIDS or National ID or National Digital ID is not compulsory. It is going to be voluntary. Now, I know that when Jamaicans see the card and see what it can do, and as we layer on more services onto it, that people will want to have it. But no one is going to be forced to have the card. The card is voluntary. And I keep saying it because people keep asking if we're going to force them to have this card. No. Yes, it does add more administrative layers because you have to keep dual systems because some people will have the national ID and some will not. But that is what we have committed to do. And that's a commitment. And over time, I feel that Jamaicans will endorse it because it will make their lives easier. And so in terms of where we are, and I'll just speak generally, we do have Dr. Vernon here also who can add some more in terms of where we are. A lot of work has happened in terms of building out the framework for our national ID. And very importantly, there's a lot of work on privacy and data protection, how we protect people's information as we build out NIDS. And so the team has worked tirelessly to ensure that Jamaicans can feel safe in giving their information, in giving their biometric info, and putting it in the system because it is secure. We've talked many times about security around it. We have a digital transformation advisory council that's chaired by Jackie Wright, and Jackie Wright isn't just anyone. She's a former vice president of Microsoft. She is also now the CIO, the Chief Information Officer for McKinsey Group worldwide. And she also was brought in by the government of the UK to help to fix IT in the UK system. So this is not an ordinary person, obviously a Jamaican also, which we're very proud of. But she's volunteered her time to help us as we do this digital transformation, and that's how our diaspora is helping us, and that's how we're engaging with elements of our diaspora to help us to look at things, because sometimes when you have that kind of global picture and you look at the systems that we've built, you see something different. And so we've been utilizing her to look at what has been built, and that digital transformation team that's filled with IT experts with global experience, looking at what we have built, looking at the way we're approaching it, and helping us to ensure that the security dimensions are there, that the resilience dimensions are embedded in what we are doing, and also, importantly, that the user experience is good. And so where we are now, we are awaiting the regulations, the finalization of the regulations. So we have the law, but you have to have regulations around how the NIRI and the NIRA will be operating, and NIRA will be our National Identification and Registration Authority, and you have NIRI, which is going to be overseeing all of the work that is done in relation to the ID, the printing of it, the storing of the info and all of that. And then layered on top of that, we have a new data protection framework, which is going to embed certain requirements in terms of protecting data. So there's a very robust system around NIDS, and we've spent the time to ensure that it is very robust. It is led by Dr. Vernon, who is just a wonderful public servant. He's a servant. He's been in many places. He's been in education and did very well, and you taught him well. And education is saying they want him back, but I know he's very comfortable where he is in the office of the Prime Minister leading on such an important project. But we have good Jamaicans, and I love to point it out. They're really good people here. And Dr. Vernon is one of those. And he's worked really tirelessly on this project to make it a reality. And so once the regulations are finished, are finalized, we will then go to Parliament and we will lay them there. Just to note that these regulations, we put them online so that any member of the public could comment on them. And we got comments from regular Jamaicans who read the regulations. And that's the way it really should be. Of course, we sent it to people like the PSOJ, so Metri got it, and some of the other private sector entities got it. And we've also sent it to the opposition so that it is clear that, you know, there's nothing to hide there, and that these regulations are our regulations. They're all Jamaica's regulations. And what was nice was to see some changes made to the regulations because of ordinary Jamaicans saying, we think you should change this. And so I'm very pleased with where we are. Once those regulations, and we need to do them before the end of the year, once we're finished with the regulations, they will be taken to Parliament, and then we can start to have our cards printed and produced, and our Jamaicans can go. Obviously, in the first part, we're going to go slow. It's not going to be, we want 1 million people in 1 year or anything like that. We will start with the site that we have at CSO, at Central Sorting Office, and over time we will build out to other locations where the NIDS cards can be had all across Jamaica through our post offices. And so that will take time. So we're not going out there and saying, people come right away. It's over time that we will be rolling out the application process. And so that's a quick update. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Dr. Vernon, to that update.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Permit me to say all protocols observed. Minister, I think you did very well. But just to add that the project, because you know the National Identification System is operating as a project now, and we are actually transitioning into a support role to allow the National Identification and Registration Authority to lead this initiative as per the legislation. The Minister also mentioned that the ECJ is also preparing to provide the independent oversight, and that is also embedded in the legislation. The team is committed to provide support in our support role. Our focus for the next couple of months is to support policymakers in getting the authority established. In addition, a lot of emphasis are being placed now on preparing more enrollment centers. For this year, we are already out for tender for 20 Jamaica post offices that we are modifying to facilitate enrollment. We're also placing a lot of emphasis on adjusting the application. You would be aware that we had a pilot of the system earlier this year, and we got a lot of feedback from the public, and we are currently updating the system. So our target is that by the end of this year, it is our intention to get the system ready so that the authority will be able to take it to the next level. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. And so, Minister Morgan, that's the update on NIDS. Thank you. And I'm going to do the quick update on the Information Commissioner's Office and also on data protection. And if I could have the Information Commissioner join me right here, I would be very grateful. This is Ms. Celia Barkley, who is our Information Commissioner. Now, in terms of data protection, and this is a key area, and it's not just a key area for NIDS, it's a key area in our country. And I believe that with any country that is putting more things online, where more data is being collected by our companies. You see the text messages sometimes that you get with marketing, promos, and so on. There has to be a system around which we protect people's information and data that is housed by many of our businesses and even government. And so what the legislation seeks to do is really to bring Jamaica in line with global trends in relation to data protection. We have our Information Commissioner that has been hired. She is the point person for data protection in Jamaica. It's a heavy role, but she's willing and she's ready to take on that role, and there are certain requirements around that. Now, as many of you will recall, the Data Protection Act comes into effect on December 1, 2023. Now, there's been a lot of our companies have worked really hard to get ready for December 1. And a lot of our government entities have been working really hard to get ready for December 1. NIDS is already ready for December 1, but there are many that are struggling a little bit in that regard. We've had consultations with the private sector, and I thank the private sector for their openness and their open dialogue on where the challenges are. And they've indicated that some of their members and some of our private sector leaders are not ready as yet for the full implementation. And so we are looking at how we can phase the implementation in, and we will give more details on that in the coming weeks in terms of how we will phase it in. But the legislation does say that the act comes into effect on December 1, and it will. And we will be taking applications at that time for our data processors to apply. And so that is in train. The team has been setting up their operations. As you know, with any entity that is starting from scratch, it is not easy. I mean, from getting the desks and the chairs and the computers and figuring out your systems, it's not been easy. It's not been an easy road. It's not been smooth. But under the leadership of our Information Commissioner and the support of a lot of other government entities, and that's the key thing. When we work together as government, we can move things forward. We've gotten a lot of help from eGov. We've got a lot of help from eLearning. Jamaica has supported us significantly. The Office of the Prime Minister has been helping a lot. And some of our private sector partners have also been helping to establish it. And so we're in a much better place. We still have staff that need to be hired, and we still need to expand in terms of staffing. And so the plan is for December 1 to start the registration process. And over time, we'll give companies some time to comply. And the details around that, given that we've just finally been able to get where our private sector partners and our government partners are in getting ready, we will be able to announce how we will roll in the Data Protection Act and the requirements around registration. I will hand over to our esteemed Information Commissioner to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Minister. Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. I think the Minister's introduction put it very well in highlighting where we are at in terms of the implementation of the Data Protection Act. Let me just say that as we move forward to December 1, our office is looking at constructive collaboration with a view to building confidence. And I put it that way because we have to recognize that as we look to implement our own legislative regime for data protection, we are not unique. Jamaica is following along a trend that has been ongoing in the international sphere for not just years, but in some cases, decades. And the challenges that we have faced in terms of bringing our own office on board and having our own public and private sectors ready are challenges that other countries have faced. Jamaica has never been daunted by challenges. We're little, but tallawa, as we said. And so even as we sought to pass the data protection legislation, we were in some ways very ambitious. We have looked at what obtained elsewhere and sought to take the best of what we saw and bring home to us for the protection of our people. And so in our legislation, we have opted to register data controllers. Now, this is not something that every jurisdiction has determined to do. There are jurisdictions that have sought to be more responsive in terms of dealing with complaints and reports that have come to them. We have taken the approach of, as a first step, being able to identify controllers, being able to identify their data processing activities, and using that information as a foundation based on which we're able to monitor and investigate issues concerning data protection. And so that is an approach that will give us an advantage in terms of implementing the legislation. But it is not without its challenges, because it means that we have a lot more to do than some other jurisdictions have in terms of setting up. So we have to build out our system for registration. We have to build out our office in a slightly different way from others. And so we have been doing that, and we have been doing it, as Minister said, with the support of various partners within the public sector. But I must highlight as well those persons that have assisted us in the private sector, because no system such as this is going to work unless you have the full buy-in of all stakeholders. And so we know that if this regime is going to work, then what we need is the involvement of not just the data controllers that we're regulating, not just the data processors that assist them in carrying out their functions, but also even of the very persons that we are protecting. And so communication has to be key in terms of our going forward. And in that regard, we have had various members of the private sectors, including even some privacy practitioners, who have partnered with us in informal ways in helping to put out the message of data protection. So what I'd like to do is use this opportunity, just following up on what the Minister said, to ask persons not to be fearful of the December 1 date and what it might bring. Recognize that we are a young jurisdiction generally, a new jurisdiction to the data protection sphere, and that it will take time, as Minister said, for us to grow, develop, and build out. So what we are seeking to do is establish relationships that will allow for us to be mindful of the limitations on both sides, but at the same time work towards achieving our mutual objectives. Because we know that in this type of international environment, there's no way that Jamaica is going to succeed unless we can demonstrate that we too are adhering to the standards that have been set globally. And that is the intention of this office. Thank you, Minister.
Right, thank you. Thank you. I hope you see the wonderful people we have in the public sector. We have some really good people, don't we? And our Information Commission, you can't go yet, said something really very important. She spoke about collaboration. And as we said earlier, this is National Partnership Day, and we are taking a collaborative approach. We've gone to the private sector. We've spoken with the private sector about this legislation, about it being implemented. Are there any concerns? Are your members ready? What are the areas that they need more communication around? And they have told us. And we listen. That's the key thing. In partnerships, in marriages, you know, you have to listen. And that's what we are doing. And the Information Commissioner and team has been putting the word out, doing the seminars, working with various teams, and that will be ramped up. So don't be afraid of December 1. December 1 we'll start registration, but in terms of the sanctions and so on, those will take time to come in. And we will definitely communicate as we move along, when it becomes compulsory for all of the controllers to be registered, and when the regime in relation to sanctions will be very much in place and effected. So December 1 is really just the start of our journey on this road, which is a journey that Jamaica cannot not be on, especially given what is happening globally. Protecting people's privacy, protecting people's right, it's a right to privacy, is really central. And that is what this data protection law is about. It's not something that we should fear. It is something that is good. It's about the protection of an important right. And so on Partnership Day, I like to end on that collaborative type note. And I want to acknowledge Donovan Wignall, whose item is on the agenda for National Partnership Council today. I thank you for joining. And I see Cavan Gale, Senator Cavan Gale, who is here, who is one of our union reps on the National Partnership Council, who is also with us, and it does signal the vibrance of our partnership. And you know, I was thinking about it and saying, you know, like, you know, when you have a plural marriage, it felt like that way. When you have multiple spouses in this partnership, it can get hard. You know, I watched Sister Wives once, and I saw how hard it can get. And so it is very difficult to have a partnership like this going. But I'm happy, because we're all talking, we're all smiling, we're cussed in the room, and then we go outside and we hug and we talk. And that's where we want to be, and that's the example for Jamaica. And the National Partnership Council is just an embodiment of what we want across Jamaica. Partnership is not just a council. It's about how we partner, how we have better relationships, and that's what the Ministry of Education is doing with some of their psychosocial work. They're trying to get us to be better social beings, and that's what we have. And I see Nadine Spence, who I also have to acknowledge, who is a key partner in the National Partnership. And so, Minister Morgan Extraordinaire, I've said a lot, and I am done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. the Honorable. Is it the Honorable Doctor or Dr. the Honorable? I'm always confusing. Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, and also the Honorable Favour Williams. Want to welcome Dr. Nadine Spence as well. So many doctors in here this morning. Also Dr. Kassan Troop. Are there any other doctors? But thank you very much, ladies. Thank you very much for advising the nation on the partnership, and as well as the Data Protection Act, which is very important. A lot of persons have been inquiring about where we are with that, and as well as NIDS. I too would like my ID, please. Naomi, do we have any questions from members of the media?
Good morning, Minister, and good morning, everyone who is here. It's been a very, very comprehensive briefing so far. May I invite Minister Morris Dixon back, because we do have a question for her from one of our media reps who are not here, or who is not here. The question is, what's the revised timeline for the government to bring the data protection legislation to Parliament?
Okay, so the legislation is already passed. So that is, it's already law. So it's really the regulations. The regulations are again being finalized. We anticipate that by the end of November, early December, we should be able to have those finalized.
November, early December.
This year, yeah, this year.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, and indeed, regulations. Again, for you, Minister, a National Partnership Council, what are some of the key accomplishments of the National Partnership Council, and what is your short-term objective, at least up to the end of the calendar year?
Oh, calendar year, okay. You know, a partnership, as I said in the discussions, is about how you discuss national initiatives and national issues. And it's not just your regular ticking of a box like you would in, you know, in our private sector businesses. You know, did you meet that sales target? Did you not meet that sales target? It's about us being able to sit and discuss issues. We have a National Partnership Council document where we want to be institutionalizing the partnership, and that's a key thing. How do you institutionalize it? How do you have a terms of reference that actually says how you bring a member on, have a member taken off, how meetings are held? That was never institutionalized. It was always very loose in terms of the arrangement. And one of the key goals for this financial year is to have that in place, and that would take us further than we've ever been with a partnership in terms of institutionalizing it. There have also been many other things that have happened in terms of the partnership. We've seen movement on a number of areas, even in relation to crime. We have seen a partnership, there was a consensus that was linked to this. Obviously, another one that was not easy. It's not easy to get consensus around crime, but the partnerships were able to have a national consensus around crime. Didn't work as perfectly as we wanted, but that's okay. In a partnership, it's never going to work like that, especially a partnership with as many partners. And so what we're doing on that one is refreshing our look at crime and how we can have a crime consensus, because that remains a priority.
Thank you, Minister. Really appreciate it. I suppose maybe I should say a general apology for the media. The rain really has gotten most of our media partners, and so they're not here, but they're sending in questions. There's one from Minister Williams in terms of Parent Month, which is next month, in a few days really. Parent Month is coming up in November. What are the resources available to parents? And I do see two parent monitors here in the audience today who may be struggling with managing their children, and what are the activities planned for the month?
All right, great questions. I'm going to ask Ms. Casey Akar, who has been doing the planning, to just come up and briefly say what the month will be like. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Williams. The National Parenting Support Commission, and by extension the Ministry of Education and Youth, has been actively encouraging this alliance, if you will, between schools, home, and community. We recognize communities as spaces that are resource rich. And so the resources that are available would include the resources in our schools. We have guidance counselors, we have social workers, we have health and family life educators, and we also have persons who we've trained called parent mentors. These are persons who are volunteers. We have over 400 of them across the country who give of their service, having been trained 13 weeks intensively in 13 modules in effective parenting. And so they're available to schools and to parents at the community levels. You know, there is an explicit conclusion at the Ministry of Education that if we, and when rather, we get parenting right, then we will make right many things in society. And so Parent Month will be launched next Wednesday, November 1. After the launch, we will be pushing parenting education sessions every Tuesday through to Friday. And then we will also have an award ceremony, because it is also a celebration of our parents who are contributing to the education sector. So there will be a graduation and an award ceremony to close out the end of the month.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Minister?
Suspect you have another question?
Yes, I have one last one that just came in. One quick second. and this one is actually directed to you, sir. Considering the opposition's threat that it will withdraw from the Transport Steering Committee, how confident is the government that other important partnerships, such as constitutional reform and even the National Partnership Council, will be maintained as the political temperature across the country increases?
Thank you very much, Naomi. Well, we are always interested in partnering with stakeholders, whether it be trades unions, whether it be civil society. I've been a part of several of these forums, and I can tell you that the conversations are very robust, where people hold the government accountable. We're always open to partnership, but we have to govern. We are the elected government, and we have to govern. So while we are open to criticism and we are open to dialogue, and we will always try to facilitate an engagement with various sectors within the society, at the end of the day, we are the ones that the people hold accountable. In the case of the transport sector, the minister would have established this committee, which is the committee that actually deliberated on the level of increase that was to be had. It is a committee that engaged with taxi operators, bus operators, transport groupings, the opposition, and it was a collaborative effort, which was a bit different on this occasion. So it wasn't a case where the government just got up and said, we're going to give this increase. It was based on engagement and dialogue. As the minister said yesterday, we do not wish for the opposition to exit the process. But that's their decision, and we cannot force them to partake. But we still have to do the work, and we still have to engage with all the stakeholders. So just to conclude, we are always open, as I said, and we're always willing to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And those are the questions for today.
Thank you very much. It's 9:07. Want to thank members of the Partnership Council for being here today on Partnership Day. Also, members of the Ministry of Education, the leadership of the Ministry of Education, our two ministers, the Honorable Dana Morris-Dixon and the Honorable Favour Williams. And I'd also like to thank members of the public who have been listening to us this morning. Very important matters discussed here today. Thanks to the support teams from JISTV, BCJ, and the Office of the Prime Minister. Until next week, Wednesday, 8 a.m. sharp. Stay tuned. We're always on time. It's a good thing, right? Stay tuned for another post-cabinet press briefing. Have a wonderful day.